welcome back to the channel. This is our lovely floor, and in this week's episode we're going to show you how we put it down.
Yeah, so we'll go through how we put the battens down, insulating between those battens, creating a vapour barrier, and then putting the plywood on top to create the floor. So let's get to it. This is the plan I'll be working to for the flooring battens. So we just drew it out on graph paper. I took a picture of it, imported it into Microsoft Word, and then just drew some lines and some text boxes on it. So what we're doing is we're doing quite a few kind of battens going across, and then we've got some coming down just for added support and over key areas where we're going to be building furniture. Hopefully you can see behind me the flooring battens that we've done. Still got a few more cross ones to do down there by that door card. There's going to be two more. There's going to be one coming up here as well. And then that should be it. But I'm now down basically to my scrap wood. I'm going to add one across there just so that when it comes to cutting out the insulation, everything's in rectangles, which will make it much easier to cut the insulation out to fit. One of the last pieces we need to put in is 22 centimeters long. Just so happens I have this 20 centi piece and a 2 centi piece offcut, which comes perfectly up to the 22 mark. So we'll glue those two together and use that, because this is literally the extent of the wood I have left now. What I've done is I've just cut some of these. So what we can do where they're needed is just slide them under there, and they'll just give it just that extra support that it needs. That's all the battens in now, but for now we just need to insulate between these, then we can hopefully get our plywood on top. But before we do any of that, I need to cover these wheel arches with some of the Reflectix.
And about to start making the insulation covers for our wheel arches. We're making them out of this kind of Reflectix style material, and I've just been outside to the van and taken some kind of more detailed measurements. Now the plan that we think we're going to go with is to make one long rectangle like this, which will sit up and over the wheel arch kind of on the top surface, and then cut out another sort of half oval shape, which will sit basically on the front bit of the wheel arch. And then these measurements should allow those two pieces to overlap, probably by about 2 to 3 centimeters, hopefully.
So that's the first wheel arch wrapped and vapour barriered. That was surprisingly painful. And that's only the first one.
we're out here with a hairdryer and a nice hot water bath for our Sikaflex, because the plan today was to come out and measure all of the gaps between the wood battens to put down and to cut out our insulation board and fit it into the gaps. But we found that as we were trying to line everything up and double check the measurements, they just kept moving, because at the moment none of them are fixed down properly. So we've decided we need to fix at least a few down before we can get started. But it is currently hovering between 0 degrees Celsius and 1 degree Celsius, which is far too cold for the Sikaflex. So we're going to try and warm the actual stuff up with some warm water, and maybe warm the actual metal of the van up with a hairdryer.
So I just found some of this insulation board in the back of the garage that my parents said they don't need, so I may as well use it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut strips and use them on the battens where they're kind of half on and half off the ribs, just to give them that bit of extra support. And then on top of that, there's kind of a deep channel running down the middle of the van as well. So we'll build that up just so when our solid PIR board insulation goes on, that's got a bit more support before our plywood floor goes on top. So not only will this give us a bit of extra insulation, it will just give us that bit of extra support on the floor as well. You can see behind me that all the battens for the floor are all now stuck down. That's where they're going to be. So I've now been round and measured for the size of the insulation. So we'll need to cut that out, but I've put that into a cut size calculator online. And these are the cutouts we need to do, which should minimise waste. The wheel arches are a bit more of a kind of complicated shape, but then I remembered that we actually had the original plywood floor, so I've just traced around the wheel arches from that onto some cardboard, cut that out. I've just cut round our template and done a bit of shaving and repositioning, so hopefully now I'll pop this in. Just bought this contour gauge, which should help us do any of the weird profiles like this back corner here. So it's very simple to use, just kind of line it up with where you want it to be. Put it about there and just push it forward. And then the handy thing about this one is it's got these two kind of straight edges, so if we just line them up, then we can draw around this line, shave that off, and it should fit pretty nicely. so all the insulation is in now and all the battens are down, we're actually going to put a layer of the Reflectix down the end over the top, just because it's not quite level, so the battens aren't quite 25mm everywhere as we were hoping they would be. So once that's on, that should just level it all out slightly, and it seems to be less squeaky with that on as well. So we finished putting the insulation in and completing the vapour barrier. So we've got foil tape on this side, and we've put a layer of the double bubble foil that side, because that's going to be the side where we're walking on most.
That's also the side that's got only the 5mm ply on it, so we went for a thinner plywood, which means obviously it's a little bit less sturdy, so we put that out just to help level it a bit. And then at the back we've got the 9mm ply, or we're going to have the 9mm ply, because that's where all the heavier weight's going. It's where kind of our water tanks and all of our gear is going to be kept.
The first piece of the floor has just gone in. I'm quite happy with how it's turned out width-wise, and then we'll just need to scribe to that corner over there because it's not quite square. So I'll just grab the contour gauge.
We're about to start screwing down our floor. We've got our screws, we've got our drills. We are going to drill a pilot hole first, because it's quite thin, so we don't want it to split. And then we're going to countersink the screws in.
So this is the final screw hole.
It is indeed.
The last screw we're putting in on this floor.
Our floor is complete. We'll give you a quick tour. As you can see, there's a lot going on. So if we start over at the back, the original floor that we had connected underneath the plastic trim, so there's a slight lip here. We were thinking about maybe getting some 3mm ply to cover it, but I think we might just try and do it with like a little stair lip thing. So this is the edge of our 9mm ply where all the heavy stuff will be going, and then sliding, sometimes literally, over to the main bit of floor, which is our 5mm ply, because we were trying to save on height and weight and everything.
And the joins have all worked fairly well. They're tight, nice and tight.
Tight.
In the joins. So that has actually worked surprisingly well, and it's very close to the side on the ply we cut somehow. And then you come to the original floor. Look at that gap! Look at it! Outrage! And that side. No finesse in the factory. No finessing at all. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the video about the floor.
If you did, or if you found it useful, please drop us a like and subscribe, and we'll see you next Thursday for another episode.
See you then. Pay attention.
Subscribe.
More friends.